All right. So we are ready. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for Networks Live on Demand with MadSkills. I'm Liz Jones, the Blue Star Family's Operations Manager. Here today we have Erica McManus from MadSkills who's going to talk to us about virtual interviewing. If you're joining us via Facebook Live and you have questions, you can ask them in the comments and I'll bring them forward to Erica. If you're joining us via the Zoom platform, you can ask your questions using the question and answer box or the chat feature, and we'll make sure that they get answered. Hey, Erica, thanks for being here today. This is our last of 4 MadSkills webinars for this year, so we're excited to possibly continue on to next year. Can you just start telling us a little bit about MadSkills?
Yeah, I would love to. And I'm super excited. I can't believe it's been a whole year already since we kind of mapped out what we wanted to talk about in 2018 together. So I'm really excited to kind of wrap it up with virtual interviews because I think these types of things are always great for like going into a new year, like feeling prepared, know what you want to do when the new year hits. So, but yeah, I'll definitely start first with MadSkills. Like you said, my name is Erica McManus. I am an Army spouse. We're still an active duty family, and I'm co-founder and COO of Hire MadSkills. And we build and create remote teams for companies across the nation. And the really unique part of what we do with that is that we use military spouse talent to build those teams. So we launched the company 2 years ago, knowing that that was a gap in military spouse unemployment, and really wanted to see what we could do to bring remote jobs and remote career opportunities to spouses. And so we've been able to create that in just the way that we work with our customers to figure out the types of teams that they're looking for. And then we go right to the military spouse talent pool and we find the best candidates and we build these teams for our customers with military spouses.
Awesome. I feel like this is a really important topic because more and more you see virtual interviewing being pretty much almost the norm, if not so much just straight out virtual interviewing, but at least doing a virtual or phone interview before doing an in-person interview. So I think it's really important to just kind of pick up some tricks and some trade secrets. So on that, what have you seen at MadSkills?
Yeah, so we've been doing, we're a 100% remote company. Liza and I, as founders, are 6 time zones apart. Our entire core team are across the nation in different time zones, and all the teams we create are remote. So the only way we communicate is exactly what we're doing here. We actually use the same platform, which is called Zoom, if anybody's wondering what we're using. It's called Zoom, and it's a video conferencing tool. So, I mean, this is the only way we talk and we meet people. So we have definitely seen best practices. We've seen things not to do. And I think it's an education piece. If you've never talked or interviewed virtually, you may not even think that there's a process to be aware of or how to present yourself. You're just like, oh, I got to hop on this, and you get on. So I'm definitely excited to talk through some of those tips and trades, things to prepare for, things to look out for, and how to just best present yourself overall.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say that the process would be kind of across the board, just broadly?
Let's see, like if we took it step by step.
Step by step from, you get an interview or an email and you're kind of looking at it and you're like, is this a scam?
Yeah, no, and I love that you bring up scams. I was actually just talking with a local MSPN chapter last night about the same thing and we've done a Facebook Live together on that topic specifically before, is when you start to navigate through the remote workspace, unfortunately, the space itself, but then also us as a spouse community, we're kind of susceptible to scams, whether it's targeted directly or just by default of the types of jobs that we're looking for. So there are definitely typical scams that can happen out there in the virtual space. And I would say the number one thing to look out for is being asked to do a virtual interview in just a Google chat room. So if you've ever approached LinkedIn, you get an email, or somebody connects with you in some other weird way, you're like, how did this person even find me or know that I'm interested in a job? Usually this one specific scam that just happens the same way every time is they'll be like, hey, we're closing up something. We need to talk to you in 45 minutes. Are you free? Hop on Google Chat. And it's just all textual based, right? You're in a chat room. You're not seeing anybody. There's no visuals. That's usually a really big flag that there's something wrong happening. And to not go into the whole scenario, by the end of this process that they're very good at doing and getting you to believe that it's real, your identity is completely gone.
Oh, man.
So there are things to definitely look out for. If you ever have that red flag or that gut feeling like, I don't know if that's normal, research it. Go into a Facebook group and ask, hey, has anybody ever heard of this company? Like, I see that happening all the time, and it's really great because people will say, that happened to me. Do not, interact with them anymore, or no, that's company is totally legit. But usually if there's a legitimate factor, there needs to be like a visual, right? So we do everything virtually, but we use video so that we valid people as well.
Mm-hmm. I see. That's really good advice. I think that's one of the main things that, especially when you're just like working in that virtual environment, you kind of always just in the back of your mind are always thinking about, well, this is a really good opportunity. Is this a scam? So looking out for something like that is awesome. And a question that we got from just a viewer across the board was just like, should I dress up? Like, should I treat it like a normal interview?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
There you are.
Breaking up a little bit. Yeah, I think how you and I are dressed is kind of what I would expect is like the baseline. Like, look put together, look professional, have like a clean background behind you. Even if it's just a partition board, like you got to put up behind you because you don't have like a blank wall or something, like do use that as a part of your forethought. Like, what are they going to see when they get on camera? Because sometimes you see people get on and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a bed full of laundry behind me. Like you just don't think about that. So to go along with the steps, like after you've legitimized that this is a real company, figure out the technology that they're interviewing you through, because it could be Zoom, it could be Skype, it could be WebEx, it could be GoToMeeting. Like there's a lot of different platforms out there. Mm-hmm. And most times if you've never used it before, it's going to require you to download something or approve some type of integration to your desktop. And usually on the invitation that comes for a virtual interview, it will say, meet us in this Zoom link or meet at this WebEx link. So get that information, get that software ready on your computer. And then most of them have like a practice mode. So you can just log in and you'll see what you look like. You'll see what your background looks like. And it's just a really good practice to do that, because also seeing yourself for the first time can kind of be like, oh, hey, like even me, I'm like, oh, I should fix my hair a little bit more today. So it's preparation. You would prepare going into a brick and mortar business for an interview. You'd be sure you were put together. You would know the directions of the place you were going so you can show up on time. So that's kind of that interpretation into the virtual space. Get yourself put together, know where you're going, even if it's a virtual space, ahead of time before you like click to log in and get there. Because if you wait till 3:00 and your interview's at 3:00, you're going to show up late. Could be 5-10 minutes if you don't know what you're doing with the technology. So definitely prepare yourself.
Yeah. How soon in advance should you actually try and like log on, other than, a day before or whenever actually downloading the software? But I mean, is it unheard of to show up, log on about 5-10 minutes early and just kind of wait?
Yeah. And it also depends on like what kind of, again, the software they're using, because some have like waiting rooms. Well, you can just log in and you're kind of hanging out until they like bring you into the active interview area. But I would say like sit down and be ready to go 10 minutes before your interview time. And then maybe 5 minutes before the interview time, click to accept or to enter the meeting. And they may not approve you or bring you in, but they at least know that you've shown up and you're there waiting to go.
Okay. So you've done the interview, you've gotten that far, you were dressed up for it, you did all of that. But okay, so we're looking at like my computer doesn't work or my internet just decides to die. Yeah. What is the best way to go handling that?
Yeah. And I think we were just talking about the snowstorm you're in the middle of. It could be affecting your internet. And, that's the thing. Technology is technology. So you can do everything to get yourself set up and prepared, and then it's never going to fail. Something's going to happen. So any professional courtesy, if you were driving to an interview and there was a car accident or your car died or you couldn't find parking, whatever mode of communication you've been using with that company or that person, whether it was a phone call, a text, or an email, like just shoot it off really fast. Like, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm running 5 minutes behind. You don't really have to give the whole scenario or the excuse. It's more of a professional line just to say, I'm so sorry. I am running 10 minutes behind. Let me know if this is still, I can still show up and we'll be on track. I know that panic mode can happen if your internet's not working, because sometimes you can't fix that. So, the second step to that would be, go to a Starbucks and sit outside and grab the Wi-Fi if you have to. But just always communicate, because if you really want that job and you just ghost, which we've talked about on a previous Facebook Live, then your chance is going to be kind of shot, and it's going to be harder to kind of, mend that relationship if you just don't show up and you don't say anything. So whatever's happening, people know life happens, chaos happens, just always communicate what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to bring up the ghosting thing too. Whatever you do, don't ghost out and just disappear off the face of the earth. Email, phone call, text, whatever you can do is probably your most professional avenue. I know that a lot of people have questions about just stance in general. Like, what do I do with my hands? Should I talk with my hands? I'm from Chicago, so I talk with my hands all of the time. And people are like, whoa, easy. So, I mean, what would be a trick for or a tip for, how you look and how you present yourself?
My best advice is just be authentic. If you're trying really hard not to be who you are, it's going to come across and it's going to make you seem inauthentic. So if you're a hand talker, use your hands, move around. Have a lot of expression. I can't explain it. Encourage so much to bring your personality to an interview. There's nothing worse than getting on. And I don't know if this is a virtual interview thing or if people do this in real interviews. I don't know if it's an intimidation factor or just being, interviews can be kind of intimidating and uncomfortable no matter what. Right. You don't know who you're talking to. You're really wanting this. You want to impress somebody. Just bring some personality. Even if you're a quiet, kind of reserved person, be sure you smile. Be sure you are acknowledging the conversation. Be sure that you're focused on the screen. There's nothing worse than to see somebody being interviewed and they're looking here, or they've got their phone. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah, I can do that. You would never do that sitting in a brick and mortar place. You wouldn't be sitting in front of the CEO or the hiring manager of a company. Oops, somebody said they lost audio.
Okay.
I don't know. I can hear you, so maybe we're okay. Yeah, you wouldn't do that going into a typical brick and mortar interview. You wouldn't be sitting there on your phone while the person is interviewing you. So don't replicate those types of behaviors on a virtual interview either. It's really the concept is exactly the same. You are presenting yourself as a valuable, qualified candidate. You want to show your interest. You want to show your personality. So just really show up in all of those factors.
And just basic, interviewing tips in general. Always have a copy of your resume on hand so that when you get questions asked, you can refer to it. One of the things that I remember being told a very long time ago when I started doing webinars and just asking questions and kind of quasi-interviewing people was that my background is orange and to never wear red or orange.
Okay.
I will bleed into the background.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just kind of a little trade secret that I picked up along the way. Other than that, is there any other best practices that you can think of?
I really think the best thing to do is practice it. If that means sending the link or sending something to your best friend or your husband, or your spouse, hey, go sit in the living room and get on this link with me. Let me see how I feel. Let me hear how I hear. Just really practice, give yourself a dry run at it before you jump on that interview. And then, like I said, it's an interview, be sure that you're ready to go. And this is hard when you want to work from home and you're interviewing from home, but be sure that you don't have kids running around in the background. I know that's hard to contain sometimes. You're stay in that room for the next 15 minutes. Sure enough, somebody's going to come streaking across behind you. Right. So, the prior planning, even if it's just 15-minute interview, find a neighbor, ask for help, hey, I have this opportunity. And I know that's hard. And I know that's this whole level of just spouse employment struggles in the beginning is childcare and how do I do this? I want a career, but my kids are home. But I would just really, really highly recommend if you have a virtual interview, be sure that your children are, being watched or entertained. somehow so that during that interview, you're really able to focus.
Right. Exactly. I think one of the other things that I kind of just picked up on was like with the practicing thing, it's like the first time that you ever do like a web conference or anything like that, it's very awkward because you're not standing in front of a person talking. So the more that you can practice like talking to a screen, the better.
Yeah.
Now it's just like second nature. I can talk to you, I can
Yeah.
see you, and you and I can go back and forth and not have a problem. But if you've never done it before, it's very awkward at first. So practice.
I agree.
I'm going to look and see if we've got any questions.
Okay. I would give one extra, like this is totally a random tip, but I had to get rid of my spinning chair. I mean, everything I do is online. I had to get rid of my spinning chair because I'd get nervous. And so the whole time I'm doing this, and I think I've even done it on Facebook Live. So I'm like moving and I'm spinning and I talk with my hands so that I talk and it moves to the chair. Now I sit on a really uncomfortable bench. It's solid. It is not moving no matter how much I move. So just little things like that can change like how you're sitting and how you're presenting yourself. Even though it's virtual, people are still, I say judging, not in a judgment way, but they're judging your self-presentation. They're judging how you speak and present, especially if you're going to be in a virtual role where you're talking to people for their organization. They want to be sure that your talking head version is, highly professional and the best version of what you can put forward. So if anything, sometimes you have to work a little bit harder at showing the personality and the professionalism just in your body language, because you're not really there in person for people to pick that up. So,
yeah, definitely. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry. So, other than, the stuff that we kind of just already covered, having your resume handy, being able to talk about yourself. I mean, those are just kind of just basic interview tips in general, but virtual interviewing is just a little bit different because of that awkwardness of talking to a camera or talking to a screen. So, practicing all that and making sure that your background is, my background is orange, your background and things going on behind you, being aware of your surroundings, of course. That's, I don't have anything to add. Do you?
One more thing came to mind.
Sure.
Be sure you know the company that you're interviewing with. Mm-hmm. And we experienced this a lot, and we've actually built in a new piece of our process. And if you Google this, it's actually something in HR, and it's called being an informed candidate. And that means that not only are you coming to the table with your skill set and your values and presenting yourself like exactly what this company needs for this position, but you also know about the company. So even if they don't ask you if you know about the company, or they don't ask you to tell them something about the company, always come with a question. That shows them that you are engaged and that you are there to be sure that you are the right fit as much as they want you to be. So if you go through the whole interview and they don't really talk about the company, or they haven't asked you questions about what you think of the company, and it's very like role-based and it's all about you, just throw out that question like, well, tell me about the leadership culture here at company XYZ. Mm-hmm. Or I noticed one of your core values is, I don't know, something, pick up a core value and ask them about that. Because that tells them immediately you're aware, you're already engaged, you're already invested. And that's so easy. Like Google the company. All companies have about pages. You can find out information on Glassdoor about an organization. And really come like super, super informed, which we should do as spouses anyway, right? Everywhere we go, we have to research and we have to figure it out on our own. So that should just come by default. Like know who you're talking to, know where you're going, and show up ready to impress.
Perfect. Yes. So I know you guys have done obviously some virtual interviewing. Can you possibly name some things that you are like absolute, that you saw that you were like, don't do this? Can you hear me, or did you lose me?
I think yes, for sure. No, I had you. It was lagged there for a second, but I think we're good. For sure. I think I mentioned them, but I'll just kind of summarize them all. The first one would be, don't be a bump on a log, smile, engage, nod. You have to do that. Even even if it feels awkward and it's not your authentic self, like people have to see that you're there and engaged. The other one would be like dirty laundry on a bed behind you, or you're at a kitchen table and there's kids and shows happening behind you. That's just not great interview protocol, and it's just not something you would do in a brick and mortar. So just be sure that you're, interpreting that into the virtual space the same way. And then I guess the third would be, it shocks me every time when people aren't making eye contact. Like, I'm talking to you right now, I'm engaged. I'm not like, what's my neighbor doing outside? And I'm not like, yeah, okay, great. Yeah. Like act like you actually care that you're there. Otherwise, why are you there in the first place? So those would kind of be my 3 do not do's.
Awesome. Well, I think that's about it. And thank you for those tips. That was awesome. And I think that that was really good information as far as, this virtual space is just it's changing rapidly, and to learn as much as you can when you can learn it is just, and helps out tremendously. Is there any more questions from anyone?
Maybe we could do like a mock virtual interview workshop sometime or something. Like just have a Zoom room and let people come on and talk just so they can see what it's like. I don't know. We can brainstorm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with that, I will let you go and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. If anyone needs to get a hold of me, I'm at Liz L. Jones at bluestarfam.org. And Erica?
Yep, you can get a hold of me at Erica, ERICA, at highermadskills.com. And MadSkills is with an S, not with a Z.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Erica.